The air was thick with more than the scent of jungle blooms and damp earth. A tremor of unease rippled through the village, carried on the wind that rustled the broad leaves of the ceiba trees. Even the sun seemed to hang heavy in the sky, its usual brilliance dimmed, as if anticipating the coming storm. Ixchel, youngest daughter of the village chieftain, felt the shift in her bones. It was a prickling awareness, a subtle dissonance in the familiar symphony of the jungle. She paused in her task, grinding maize for the evening meal, and lifted her head, her dark eyes scanning the small clearing that housed their homes. Her people, usually laughing and chattering as they went about their daily rituals, moved with an unfamiliar quietude. Their faces, usually open and welcoming, were etched with a mixture of apprehension and awe. Something was different. Something had changed. Ixchel's gaze drifted towards the source of their unease. The river. It snaked through their world, a shimmering ribbon of lifeblood, its clear waters reflecting the sky and nourishing their crops. The river was more than just water. It was the heart of their existence, the embodiment of the god's benevolence. But today, the familiar lullaby of its flow seemed different, laced with an unfamiliar undercurrent that sent shivers down Ixchel's spine. A low murmur arose from the villagers gathered at the water's edge, their voices hushed but insistent, like the rustle of leaves moments before a storm. Ixchel, her curiosity piqued, set aside her grinding stone and moved towards the growing crowd. As she drew closer, the murmurs grew louder, punctuated by gasps of disbelief and the low thrum of prayers being whispered into the humid air. Her heart pounded in her chest, a drumbeat echoing the growing unease. She pushed through the throng of bodies, her senses overwhelmed by the scent of fear mingled with the river's earthy aroma. And then she saw it. The river, their sacred life-giving river, was no longer the familiar crystal clear. It pulsed with an unnatural light, a vibrant, almost unsettling orange, like the heart of a dying fire. A collective gasp arose from the villagers, their faces a mixture of awe and terror. The river, their constant companion, their source of life and sustenance, had transformed into something alien and unknown. It was as if the very essence of their world had been disrupted, the natural order tilted on its axis. The orange glow emanated from the water's depths, a pulsating, living light that seemed to writhe and coil within the current. Ixchel stared, transfixed by the spectacle unfolding before her. The river's transformation was both mesmerizing and terrifying. It was as if the gods themselves had reached down and painted the water with a stroke of fire, a warning, a promise, or perhaps both. The orange glow intensified, casting flickering shadows across the faces of the villagers, their features contorted in a mixture of fear and fascination. The village elder, his face etched with the wisdom of generations, raised his hands, his wrinkled palms facing the sky. He began to chant in a low voice the ancient words of their people, a plea for understanding, for guidance, for mercy. The villagers joined him, their voices a mournful chorus that echoed through the clearing, a desperate attempt to find solace in the familiar rituals. Ixchel, however, remained silent. She couldn't tear her gaze from the river, her mind struggling to grasp the magnitude of what she was witnessing. This was not a natural phenomenon, not a trick of the light or a shift in the riverbed. This was something more profound, something that spoke of ancient prophecies and the capricious whims of the gods. The air crackled with a strange energy, a palpable tension that sent shivers down Ixchel's spine. The river's flow, usually gentle and predictable, seemed to have intensified, the orange glow pulsing with a life of its own. It was as if the river itself was trying to communicate, to convey a message that transcended words. Fear mingled with a strange sense of wonder as Ixchel watched her people react. Some dropped to their knees, pressing their foreheads against the rough earth, their voices thick with prayers for deliverance. Others stood frozen, their eyes wide with a primal terror that spoke of ancient legends whispered around flickering firelight. The river, their lifeline, their provider, had become a source of fear, a harbinger of unknown change. Children clung to their mothers, their small faces pale with anxiety as they mirrored the fear etched on their parents' faces. The village shaman, his headdress askew, frantically shook his rattle, muttering incantations under his breath, his eyes darting towards the sky as if searching for an explanation in the heavens. But the sky remained indifferent, a blank canvas upon which their fears were projected. Ixchel, however, felt a strange sense of calm amidst the chaos. The river's transformation, while unsettling, filled her with a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something momentous was about to unfold. Her hand instinctively went to the small, smooth stone she wore on a leather cord around her neck, a gift from her grandmother, a woman revered for her connection to the spirit world. "The river speaks," her grandmother's voice whispered in her ear, echoing the words she had spoken years ago when Ixchel was just a child. "It carries the memories of our ancestors, the wisdom of the ages. Listen to its song, and it will guide you." Ixchel closed her eyes, blocking out the cacophony of fear and confusion around her. She focused on the feel of the smooth stone against her skin, her grandmother's words a soothing balm on her troubled mind. She took a deep breath and opened herself to the river's energy, its power flowing around her like a warm current. The river's orange glow intensified, enveloping Ixchel in a warm embrace. Fear, which had gripped the hearts of her people, found no purchase within her. A strange sense of peace settled over her, a feeling of rightness, as if she had been drawn to this moment, prepared for it since birth. The water, usually cool and refreshing, thrummed with a newfound energy, a vibrant pulse that echoed the rhythm of her own heartbeat. She stepped forward, her bare feet sinking into the soft mud at the river's edge. No one tried to stop her. They watched, their faces a tableau of fear and reverence, as she waded deeper into the glowing current. The orange light played across her skin, painting her with its otherworldly hue. It felt ancient, powerful, a force older than time itself. Deeper she went, until the water reached her waist, her chest, her shoulders. The current tugged at her, urging her further into its embrace. She didn't resist. Closing her eyes, she surrendered to the river's pull, trusting in the whispers of her grandmother's spirit, the ancient wisdom that flowed through her veins. Then, as quickly as it began, the current released her. She found herself standing, not in the muddy shallows of the riverbank, but on a bed of smooth, polished stone. The orange light still pulsed around her, but it had softened, forming a shimmering dome that seemed to separate her from the world she knew. And before her, woven from the very essence of the river, stood a woman. The woman radiated power and serenity. Her long, dark hair flowed like the river itself, cascading down her shoulders and back, flecked with strands of silver that shimmered like moonlight on water. Her eyes, when she met Ixchel's gaze, held the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes, their depths swirling with the same orange light that pulsed around them. Ixchel recognized her instantly. Ixchel, the moon goddess, protector of women, patron of healing, and mistress of the ebb and flow of life. Daughter of my heart, Ixchel's voice resonated through Ixchel, a melody as ancient and familiar as the river itself. You have heard my call. Ixchel sank to her knees, overcome by the goddess's presence. Great Ixchel, she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. The river, it has changed. Ixchel smiled, a gentle curve of her lips that sent ripples of light dancing across the surface of her watery form. As it must, child, as it always has. Confusion flickered across Ixchel's face. But the elders, the shaman, they say it is a sign of your displeasure, a warning of ill fortune. The goddess chuckled, a low melodic sound that seemed to reverberate through the very core of Ixchel's being. The river does not punish, child. It flows. It changes. It reflects the truth of all things, both light and shadow. Ixchel extended her hand, her fingers brushing against Ixchel's forehead. The touch sent a jolt of energy through her, a surge of power that made her gasp. Images flooded her mind's eye, visions of her village, her people, their lives intertwined with the river's flow. She saw generations past, their joys and sorrows, their triumphs and failures, all connected by the river's eternal current. Ixchel saw the future too, a kaleidoscope of possibilities, some bright and hopeful, others cloaked in darkness. She saw the river, its orange glow intensifying, a beacon in the gathering shadows, a symbol of change, of transformation. And she understood. The river wasn't dying. It was awakening. And so was she. The visions faded, leaving Ixchel breathless, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked up at the goddess, her eyes wide with wonder and a touch of fear. The river speaks of change, she whispered, the words catching in her throat. But what does it mean? What am I to do? Ixchel's gaze softened, her hand lingering on Ixchel's forehead. The river has chosen you, daughter of my heart. It has awakened a power within you, a gift that has slumbered for generations. A gift? Ixchel's brow furrowed. She was just a village girl, skilled with a mortar and pestle, adept at weaving baskets and tending to the needs of her family. What possible gift could she possess that would warrant the attention of a goddess. You carry the heart of a leader, the soul of a healer, Ixchel said, her voice filled with warmth and conviction. The river has chosen you to guide your people through the coming storm, to help them navigate the currents of change. Ixchel's fear morphed into a quiet determination. But I am just one voice. How can I hope to lead when the elders, the shaman, they cling to the old ways, to fear? The river will guide you, Ixchel assured her, her voice echoing with the ancient power that resided within her. Listen to its song. Trust in the wisdom that flows within you. And know that you are not alone. I am always with you, daughter of my heart. Always. The village slept, shrouded in darkness and fear. The usual comforting sounds of the jungle night, the chirping of crickets, the rustling of small animals, were muted, as if the very forest held its breath, anticipating something momentous. Ixchel, however, was wide awake, her senses heightened, her heart thrumming with the echo of the goddess's words. She slipped out of her family's hut, her movements silent and swift. The orange glow of the river beckoned her, a beacon in the darkness, drawing her towards a destiny she only vaguely understood. The village elders had declared the river forbidden, a place of ill omen, but Ixchel knew in her heart that she had to return. The river had chosen her. She could no more resist its call than she could stop the sun from rising. The forest path, familiar since childhood, seemed different tonight, imbued with an unfamiliar energy that sent shivers down her spine. The air thrummed with a low vibration, the echo of the river's power resonating through the trees, the earth, her very being. Fear, a cold fist clenching around her heart, warred with a strange sense of exhilaration, a feeling that she was stepping onto a path that would forever alter the course of her life. The orange glow intensified as she drew closer to the riverbank, painting the leaves with an otherworldly light, transforming the familiar into something strange and beautiful. The air hummed with a palpable energy, a living presence that sent goosebumps prickling across her skin. Taking a deep breath, Ixchel pushed aside the last vestiges of fear and stepped out of the shadows of the trees into the river's embrace. The river welcomed her like a long-lost child. The water, no longer merely water, but a living, breathing entity, swirled around her legs, tugging gently at her, as if inviting her to surrender, to trust. Ixchel closed her eyes, feeling the cool current against her skin, the soft mud squishing between her toes. The scent of the river, no longer merely earthy, but imbued with a strange, metallic tang, filled her nostrils, intoxicating her senses. Daughter of my heart, you have returned. Ixchel's eyes flew open. The goddess, her form shimmering amidst the swirling orange light, stood before her, her features as familiar and comforting as the moon that guided Ixchel's people through the darkness. Fear, which had momentarily threatened to overwhelm her, receded like the tide, replaced by a quiet awe, a deep sense of connection to this powerful, ancient being. Great Ixchel, Ixchel breathed. her voice barely a whisper against the backdrop of the rushing water. I don't understand. What would you have me do?" The goddess smiled, a radiant expression that illuminated the riverbank with an ethereal light. "You are the daughter of this river child," she said, her voice a melody as ancient and soothing as the water itself. "Its currents flow within your veins. Its wisdom whispers in your heart." Ixchel frowned, her brow furrowing as she struggled to grasp the goddess's words. "But I am just one person," she protested, her voice tinged with doubt. "What can I possibly do to help my people? They are afraid. They cling to the old ways." Ixchel's smile deepened, her eyes twinkling with an ancient wisdom that transcended Ixchel's understanding. "The river does not demand grand gestures, child," she said gently. "It flows. It adapts. It finds a way. Always." Ixchel stared at the goddess, her mind awhirl with questions, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. What was she supposed to do? How could she possibly live up to the expectations of a goddess, the destiny that seemed to be unfolding before her very eyes? As if sensing Ixchel's turmoil, Ixchel stepped closer, her hand outstretched. Ixchel hesitated for just a moment, then reached out, her fingers trembling slightly as they met the goddess's cool, smooth skin. A jolt of energy, warm and powerful, surged through her, erasing her doubts, filling her with a sense of purpose that banished the last vestiges of fear. "Listen to the river, child," Ixchel whispered, her voice as soft as the rustling leaves, yet carrying the weight of 1,000 lifetimes. "Let its currents guide you. Trust in the wisdom that flows within you, for it is the wisdom of our ancestors, the legacy of our people." Ixchel closed her eyes, surrendering to the warmth that flowed from the goddess's touch, the energy that pulsed through her veins like the river itself. And as she did, she heard it, a low, rhythmic murmur, like the beating of a giant heart, emanating from the very depths of the river. The murmur grew louder, transforming into a symphony of whispers, voices echoing through the ages, carrying stories of her people, their joys and sorrows, their triumphs and failures. Ixchel saw flashes of the past, her ancestors fishing in the river's bounty, celebrating harvests beneath the watchful gaze of the moon, facing droughts and floods with courage and resilience. She saw the present, her people struggling to understand the river's transformation, their fear threatening to overshadow their ancient wisdom, their connection to the land, to the gods. And she saw possibilities for the future, a kaleidoscope of choices, some leading to harmony and prosperity, others to discord and destruction. But through it all, she felt the river's unwavering presence, its strength, its resilience, its capacity for change and renewal. The river, she realized, was not a static entity, but a force in constant flux, adapting to the changing seasons, the ebb and flow of life. And she, as its daughter, as the chosen one, was meant to embody that same fluidity, that same capacity for growth and transformation. Opening her eyes, Ixchel met the goddess's gaze. Her own expression transformed. The fear was gone. replaced by a quiet determination, a newfound understanding of the task before her. She didn't have all the answers, but she no longer needed them. She had the river. She had its wisdom, its strength, its unwavering guidance. "I understand," she whispered, her voice stronger now, infused with the river's power. "I will listen. I will guide them." Ixchel smiled, her eyes shining with pride and love. "So it begins," she murmured, her voice echoing the river's ancient song. "So it shall be." The grand hall of the chieftain's home was draped in shadows, the flickering light from the central hearth painting long dancing figures on the rough-hewn walls. The air, usually alive with the sense of cooking fires and laughter, hung heavy with unspoken anxieties. Keenich, the chieftain, sat alone on a low stool, his weathered face etched with concern, his gaze fixed on the flames as if seeking answers in their shifting patterns. He had ruled his people for many seasons, guiding them through times of plenty and hardship, always relying on the wisdom passed down from his ancestors, the timeless rhythms of the earth and sky. But the river's transformation had shaken him to his core. It was a disruption, an unsettling anomaly that defied explanation, that whispered of forces beyond his control. The whispers had started subtly, carried on the wind that rustled the thatched roofs of their homes, woven into the fabric of their daily lives. The river glowed, they said. Its waters ran orange, like the heart of a dying fire. At first, he dismissed the rumours as mere superstition, the overactive imaginations of a people grappling with the unknown. But as the days passed, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, fueled by fear and uncertainty. Even the bravest hunters returned from the forest with tales of the river's eerie glow, their voices hushed, their eyes wide with a primal dread that spoke of ancient legends, of prophecies whispered in hushed tones around flickering firelight. A deep sigh escaped Keenich's lips, the sound heavy with the weight of responsibility he carried on his shoulders. He loved his people, fierce and protective, their well-being intricately intertwined with his own. But the river's transformation had unleashed a wave of fear that threatened to unravel the delicate balance of their existence. He had consulted with the village elders, their faces creased with the wisdom of generations, their eyes reflecting the same unease that gnawed at his own heart. They spoke of ancient prophecies, of times when the river, the lifeblood of their world, had turned against them, heralding droughts, famines, and the wrath of the gods. The shaman, his headdress adorned with the feathers of sacred birds, had danced himself into a trance, seeking guidance from the spirit world. But even his connection to the unseen realm offered no solace, only cryptic warnings of a coming storm, a time of great upheaval and transformation. Keenich ran a hand over his face, his fingers tracing the lines etched by years of sun and worry. He was a practical man, a leader who relied on his own strength, his own judgment. But the river's transformation defied logic, defied explanation. It whispered of forces older than time, more powerful than any he had ever encountered. And then there was Ixchel, his daughter, his youngest, her spirit as bright and untamed as the jungle itself. She had always been different, drawn to the mysteries of the world, her connection to the natural realm deeper than anyone he had ever known. She had felt the river's transformation, he knew, had sensed its power in a way that he, for all his years and experience, could not fully comprehend. She had returned from her secret pilgrimage to the riverbank changed, her eyes shining with a newfound purpose, her voice carrying a note of authority that belied her youthful appearance. She spoke of the river's wisdom, its message of change, its call for courage and adaptation. But her words, though filled with conviction, only added to Keenich's growing unease. He knew the prophecies, passed down through generations of storytellers, their words woven into the fabric of their beliefs. The river, they said, was a living entity, a powerful deity that demanded respect, that held their fate in its watery hands. And when the river changed, so too would their world. Keenich paced the length of the hall, his bare feet silent on the cool earth, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Fear warred with a father's love, a leader's responsibility with a deep, abiding respect for his daughter's intuition. He had to make a choice, and the weight of his decision pressed down on him like a physical burden. He stopped, his gaze drawn to the entrance of the hall, where Ixchel stood bathed in the soft, silvery light of the moon. Her long, dark hair flowed down her back like a river of night itself. Her eyes, usually sparkling with laughter, were now filled with a solemn intensity that mirrored his own turmoil. "Father," she said, her voice soft but steady, carrying across the space between them with the clarity of a struck bell. "You are troubled." Keenich nodded, unable to speak, the words catching in his throat. He had always been proud of his daughter, her intelligence, her spirit. But now, as he looked at her standing before him, bathed in the moon's ethereal glow, he saw not just his daughter, but something more, a leader, a guide, her destiny intertwined with the fate of their people. "The river has spoken," she continued, taking a step closer, her gaze never leaving his. "It calls for us to change, to adapt, to embrace the flow of time, as it always has and always will." Keenich met her gaze, his heart heavy with apprehension. "The prophecies," he began, his voice hoarse with unspoken fear. "They speak of darkness, of destruction." Ixchel shook her head slowly, her expression softening with compassion. "The prophecies also speak of renewal, Father," she said gently. "Of a time when we will emerge from the shadows, stronger, wiser, more connected to the river, to the earth, to each other." She reached out, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her touch conveying a strength that belied her youthful appearance. "Trust me, Father," she whispered, her voice filled with a quiet conviction that resonated deep within his soul. "Trust the river. Trust the wisdom that flows within us all." Keenich looked into his daughter's eyes, saw the reflection of the river's orange glow dancing in their depths, and felt a glimmer of hope flicker within his own weary heart. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was right. Perhaps the river's transformation was not a harbinger of destruction, but an opportunity for growth, for rebirth. He had always trusted his instincts, his connection to the land, to the spirits of his ancestors. And as he stood there, bathed in the moon's soft light, his daughter's hand resting on his arm, he realized that his instincts were guiding him once again. He would trust Ixchel. He would trust the river. He would trust in the wisdom of change. Kinich, his heart heavy yet strangely light, led his people to the riverbank. The air thrummed, not with fear but anticipation. Ixchel walked beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, her presence a steady anchor in the swirling current of change. The villagers, their faces etched with a mixture of apprehension and hope, followed, their footsteps echoing the rhythm of their beating hearts. The orange glow of the river intensified as they approached, painting the clearing with an ethereal light. It was no longer a menacing presence, but a beacon, a symbol of the unknown future unfolding before them. Ixchel knelt at the water's edge, her fingers tracing the swirling patterns of light that danced across the surface. The river's energy flowed around her, a tangible force connecting her to something ancient and powerful. "People of the river!" she called out, her voice clear and strong, echoing across the water. "The river has spoken. It has shown us a glimpse of what lies ahead, a path fraught with both challenges and opportunities." The villagers drew closer, their gazes fixed on Ixchel, their fear giving way to a cautious curiosity. They had always trusted their chieftain, their elders, but Ixchel, the young woman who had once been merely the chieftain's daughter, now radiated an authority that emanated from her very core, a connection to something beyond their understanding. "The old ways are crumbling," Ixchel continued, her voice firm yet compassionate. "The world is changing, and we must change with it. The river, in its wisdom, has shown us that we are not bound by the past, but by the possibilities that lie before us." She rose to her feet, her gaze sweeping across the faces of her people, her words imbued with the river's ancient wisdom. She spoke of adaptation, of resilience, of the need to honor their past while embracing the unknown. She spoke of the interconnectedness of all things, the delicate balance between humanity and nature, the importance of listening to the whispers of the wind and the murmurs of the earth. For many days and nights they gathered by the riverbank, their fear gradually giving way to a cautious hope. They listened to Ixchel's stories, her interpretations of the river's message, her vision for a future where they lived in harmony with the changed currents of their world. They learned to read the river's flow, to understand its moods, to adapt their fishing and farming practices to its new rhythms. The shaman, his initial fear giving way to a grudging respect, incorporated the river's orange glow into his rituals, his chants now a blend of ancient incantations and new melodies inspired by the river's song. The elders, their wisdom tempered by Ixchel's insights, shared stories of their ancestors who had faced similar challenges, reminding their people that change, while unsettling, was also an opportunity for growth and renewal. Life in the village was irrevocably altered, yet the essence of their existence remained. The river, once a source of fear, became a source of inspiration, a reminder of their own resilience, their capacity for adaptation. The orange glow, once a harbinger of destruction, now illuminated their path, a beacon guiding them towards an unknown future. Ixchel, guided by the river's wisdom, the goddess's blessing, and her own innate strength, led her people into this new era. She didn't have all the answers, but she faced each challenge with courage and compassion, her heart open to the whispers of the wind, the murmurs of the earth, the ever-changing song of the river. And as the seasons turned and the years flowed by like the river itself, the orange glow faded, replaced once more by the familiar crystal-clear waters. But the memory of the river's transformation lingered, a reminder that change was inevitable, that adaptation was essential, and that even in the face of the unknown, hope could bloom anew. The village, once teetering on the brink of despair, thrived, its people bound together by their shared experience, their resilience, their unwavering belief in the power of the river, the wisdom of their ancestors, and the guidance of the young woman who had dared to listen to the whispers of change. The river flowed onward, its current carrying the echoes of the past, the dreams of the present, and the promise of a future yet to be written. And Ixchel, forever bound to its rhythm, walked beside it, her heart open to its song, her spirit as bright and untamed as the river itself. The time of the Orange River had passed, but its legacy lived on, a testament to the enduring power of change, adaptation, and the unbreakable bond between humanity and the natural world.